Got an assistant tonight.
I like your assistant.
Talks back way too much.
Well, yeah. Cats tend to do that.
Oh, I got to run and get my paperwork. I didn't fall. I just want to get what I printed. Okay.
All right. Check the time. Oh,
So Lindsay, does the library close at 5 o'clock every day now?
10 to 5 right now, yeah.
is Kevin going to join us?
I heard from him earlier today asking if we were having a committee meeting, and I said no, but I'm guessing he's probably scrambling to get home and get on the computer.
Okay. I thought maybe he was pulling a Larry.
We're glad you're okay, Larry.
You know, it just came into my mind in the morning and just disappeared by noon. That there was a meeting.
I hate it when that happens.
You know, right now, there's an excuse, and we've termed it Corona brain.
Oh,
Yep.
there you go.
Oh no, this was happening way before the virus hit.
We'll use whatever excuse we can get.
Yeah. Should we begin?
Yes,
Sure.
let's,
Please.
All right.
6:02, let's rock and roll.
Yeah, you want to make that transfer?
I'm sorry, Larry, what'd you say?
No. Lindsay, are we live now?
We're live.
Okay, well then let's start the meeting at 6:02 or 3. And we need a roll call
Larry Hatton,
here.
Jim Widmer,
Here.
Margie Van Lerberg,
Here,
Mary Ann Lobner,
There.
Cast, Jane Held,
Here.
Kevin Francis.
Okay. And the next thing on the agenda is public comments.
We didn't receive anything in the email that, was requested, and there's no other comment that I have.
All right. Then calling for the last month's minutes. I need approval for those.
I make a motion to approve them.
Okay.
Been moved and seconded. Is that you, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay. And all in favor?
I.
Opposed? Okay. Staff recognition. There were some last month and some months past that I have to catch up on for gift certificates. Am I correct?
Yes,
Yep.
All right. So I see you, Jan, about that.
yes.
All right.
My next week, I'll be working Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay. All right. I'll be sure to catch up to you. Now, who do we have this week? It's Mary
Very much.
Mary Braymeyer.
Okay, 10 years. All right. You have to forgive me. My minutes or my agenda is very tiny. I got something faulty with my printer, and everything I print comes out 1/4 size. Okay. So again, I'll catch up to Jan, and I'll make sure everybody gets their gift certificate. Get us up to date. Then we need review, discussion, and approval of the financial report.
Okay, so things are doing well. I had sent along a copy of a document that I created just to look at where we were standing in terms of PLF interest income. As they've modified, come out with their estimates of what they think the rest of the year will be. And that is above what Lindsay and I had thought it might be. So right now we're keeping the PLF where we have it, because you'll see the blue line on the PLF was where we even divided it throughout the year across the 12 months. We had our revised budgets, the orange line, you can see 35% back in May. And then the gray line through June, and then from July to December, OLC is telling us they're expecting it to be. So that's actually looking much better than rather that we had erred on the side of caution, assuming a bigger drop than what it seems. But we don't actually know. This is, of course, the last 6 months are an estimate from OLC consultants, but they're usually fairly decent. But they did send out an email that July's should be a bit above even. So things are going in the right direction. Not so much on the interest income. As most of any of you who have your own personal investments, you've seen those interests. The interest has just dropped considerably.
Dan,
Yes.
have we got our first installment of the tax money, right?
Yes. Yes, we got that back in February, and that's the larger of the two, because a lot of people just pay it all at once instead of doing it in two halves. So, right now our checking account balance is just over, well, I wrote checks today, 700,000. So we're doing pretty good. We're not in any financial straits right now. People to be aware that the interest, for us has also dropped considerably. Luckily, that wasn't a huge source of income for us, but it is that had been performing above expectations the last couple years, and that's not going to happen this year with that. Expenditure wise, we're running at about 35 or 34% of budget, which we're talking about the first 6 months of the year. In theory, we could 50% and still be, operating correctly or, responsibly, but we're spending much less than that. So, Lindsay has made sure that she knows, that they have reduced budgets, but also don't go wild and crazy, because there's a budget there. You don't have to spend it. If you need to spend it, do so, but don't just go crazy spending. And the staff has responded very well with that, in my opinion, considering we're at 34% of expenditures for the year when we could be at 50. So.
Okay, anything else you want to point out?
Those were my big ones. Were those areas.
Anybody else have any questions? We'll need a motion to accept the financial report.
I move to approve the expenditures.
I'll second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, financial report's approved. Then donations to the library.
We had some made in memory of Donald Doherty from 2 different sources, and I can't remember which of the yacht clubs it was, so it says yacht club right now. I'll get that.
Nugent's Canal.
Nugent's Canal. Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's good. Then director's report.
All right. Where did my screen go? Too many things. All right, so there's a few things that are not on there because one of them just developed today. I learned that the state library has a grant opportunity for funds from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, which is a federal program that will allow us to get $3,000 in funds to spend on some sort of COVID-related library expense. So that could be PPE for staff, wireless hotspots. One of the things that I would really like to get is washable keyboards. Right now, we're just sacrificing the ones we have with the cleaner, but we know at some point the cleaner is going to eat them. So they do make some more durable ones that you can really clean thoroughly. So that would be one of the priority items. It was a very simple grant. Larry came in and signed the paper that needed to be signed today, and I applied later this afternoon. So we should hear back about that hopefully shortly. So we did enter phase 2 on June 15th. I feel like things are going fairly well. For the most part, seems like patrons are happy to have us back and allowed to be in. We have had a few people complain that, you know, the restrictions are too much, but it is what it is. And I think overall people are happy. Statewide delivery has resumed, but at this point they're still in the delivery phase only. So they're delivering what was in the warehouse when the system shut down. Next week, we are anticipating them starting to take books from us. So hopefully those tables will disappear from the middle of the library. But don't expect any holds immediately. They're anticipating that to take until August to get up to speed on the holds. There's 150,000 holds in the system right now. And SEO will release 5,000 to 15,000 a day, depending on the load on the cargo system. And they'll start with the ones that have been in there the longest. So if you were waiting on something when we shut down, you'll get that before you see something that you placed on hold, likely like this week or last week. Let's see. Our door counts, you know, it was pretty slow at first, but as word's getting out, we're seeing an increase. In June, we were seeing an average of about 122 people a day, versus in March before we shut down, it was 302. But in the first few days, we would see less than 100. So it is going up. And I haven't pulled out the stat sheets for this month, but just based on the number of people I see come past my office, I know our numbers are going to be up. Our participation in summer reading challenge is down. We didn't get a single person to participate in that on the island. So we're hoping to get some participation this month out there because they have prizes to be given. We are opening the challenge part up to taking the slips like we did last year inside the library. So for the people who don't feel comfortable with the computer, they can fill out the slip of paper in the library. The Friends had a board meeting on June 2nd, and I don't recall if I reported at the last board meeting on that, but they did elect to cancel the book sale for the time being. They might schedule something later this year, depending on how conditions are looking and availability of our space and things like that. Let's see. Another update, Norweld asked if I would serve on the board for Norweld, and I did accept that. So that will start up sometime this summer. Youth staff have been working on the story times and puppet shows that you maybe have seen on Facebook. Margaret has been working on her fairy door contest. She came up with that and moves them around Port Clinton and Marblehead. Karen takes care of the door out on Erie Islands. So that's been a fun thing for people to go out and try to find the door in the community. Let's see. Marblehead, I didn't have anything from them when I made this report. But essentially Erin said things are going as well as expected. They're getting busier out there also, and people are happy to be able to come back in, and that the virtual events are going well. Karen is having staffing shortages and making the best of it. But she is happy that Sue Duff is able to return back to work after a lengthy leave of absence. So she will hopefully have a little more stability. Then there's a list of different trainings that people have been working on. Our statistics, of course, are down, 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 which when, you know, we're open limited hours and limited services, it's to be anticipated. Following the statistics is a list of programs that are coming up for the month, our virtual items. And the other discussion that we had earlier this week was if we try to do something in August, I'm thinking we probably do not try to do programming in August in person with the way things are looking. And I anticipate we'll still be quarantining books in August. So I think it's probably in our best interest to go ahead and cancel meeting room reservations that we have existing for August also. And those are my biggest updates.
Okay, anybody have any comments? All right. The next topic is, the building and, I'm sorry, it's committee reports. We have no committee meetings since the COVID started. And does anybody have anything they want to say relative to this topic? Okay, they're speechless. They like these committee that we're having these meetings. That's good. All right. See, Jim, this is how you're supposed to do it. Item for discussion, the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. I've been approached, and Lindsay has been approached both on, this is kind of a goofy roundabout thing, but apparently to get this program going, you need, for the first year, you need something close to $10,000 to kick it off, and a similar amount every year thereafter. And the local team that is trying to make this all happen, which Lindsay is a part of, they've approached me to see if we can tap into where did I put the into the Ottawa County Community Fund money that we have to use that money to help with this $10,000 fund money that they need. And Lindsay and I have talked about this, and we thought we better bring this up to the board. We don't know that this community foundation money that we have, and what is it, several $1,000s, Lindsay?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact balance, but there's only so much we can take out in a year. I want to say it's around $2,000 we can access in a year.
Yeah, anyway, they found out that we have this money sitting there, and they want to get their hands on it. And we don't know what the
How much are they asking for?
Pardon me, Jim?
How much are they asking for?
They'll take anything they can get.
And they're gonna expect us every year then?
Well, let me tell you what's really going to happen is they've backed away since I've talked to Peggy Debian. She's the one that was talking to me, and I called Peggy back and told her that we would have this conversation at the board meeting, and she said, well, frankly, she believes that Allison Falls, who's the lead on this committee, that she's handling it incorrectly, and she was going to step up and help Allison with the fundraising and go about it in a fashion that she believes is more appropriate, and just coming to us and asking us for money directly like like Peggy did, she knew was clumsy and a bit out of order. So the way Peggy left it with me was she was going to go back to her committee, or at least to Allison, volunteer to be the person that tries to be the fundraiser, and we would hear from them again later. So that's really where I believe it's landing right now. Do you know any more than that, Lindsay?
I've not heard any more updates, but I started with the opinion that the library's money in the Ottawa County Community Foundation is not the appropriate use for Dolly Parton Imagination Library. And they still decided to reach out to Larry.
So they went around you or over you or something like that. Got it.
Yeah, and Peggy knew that it was all clumsy, but she was approaching me respectfully saying, I'm talking to you like as friend to friend, because she and I worked on other things together.
Yeah.
It just happens I'm the president of this board. And so,
What's the benefit? What's the benefit to this program?
It is beneficial.
Could we have just a thumbnail sketch, please, just as a review of the Dolly
Sure.
Parton Imagination
So-
Library?
Yeah, it's a program that's gotten some traction in the governor's office, and so it's really being pushed statewide for every county to participate. It's a program that was started by the Dolly Parton Foundation in Tennessee and has expanded nationally. And what it does is it provides books to children up to, I think, 5 years old, birth to 5 years old. And so it gets mailed out to their house every month. And so the idea is that they are physically getting a book in their hands. And the target is for children who don't make it to the library, who their parents will open the mailbox and get the book, but that's it. And so then they actually have these books that they can own.
So they have to sign up for this?
They do have to sign up, yes.
Okay. And there's no money that comes from Dolly Parton or from the state?
The state is matching the funds, and
Matching
so
what?
whatever we put in, the state will match.
Okay.
And as I say, we as the Dolly Parton committee, not the library.
All right, and have they approached the other two library systems in the county?
I don't know if they've approached them financially. I know they approached them to serve on the committee, and neither library wanted to serve on the committee. So I don't know where they stand with financing. The Friends of the Library some were interested in, helping support the program, but there's controversy amongst their Friends board if that's really allowed, because their charter says that they support us, not the Dolly Parton Imagination Library.
now, I'll say this, that Peggy was very polite about the final conversation I had with her. And she explained to me that in her past life, near the end of her career with the Navy, she was doing a tremendous amount of work in fundraising for various things going on. And she had a lot of fun with it, very successful, and she retired doing that. And so she has skills that she can apply, and she recognizes that this committee she's on needs her skills in order to get this thing going right. And so she's really saying to me, just stay tuned and we'll get to you in a proper fashion, is kind of how it ended. And Lindsay did not know about this. Lindsay knew I was going to call her after Lindsay and I talked, but I never got back to Lindsay and explained what Peggy had told me. But that's Peggy's background, and she knew that Allison Falls, who's running this thing, had very little skill at doing this, at least doing it the proper way. So I would say just stay tuned, and they may come back to us in a more appropriate manner, and then we'll deal with it at that time. but they're going to, I'm sure they're going to approach the Kiwanis and every other organization in the county.
Well, and Rotary has, already said that they would definitely contribute. And anytime Rotary contributes, Kiwanis has to come up and try to compete, so.
And possibly the Lions.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to put my 2 cents in. I think this is a worthwhile program, but I don't know that I'm comfortable with us taking public funds to operate the library with to
Yeah.
support an outside program. It's a literacy program, which is certainly worthwhile, but I'm not sure that we should be giving them public funds to do it. If there's something we can do to assist them, besides just giving them money, by providing some space to do something or whatever that I think we could do, but I don't know about handing them money. And I'm concerned that it's going to be like every year they're going to come back. And then I'm also concerned that other organizations are going to pick up on it and we're going to start getting a lot of requests for people to do things for people.
And Jim, I agree with you from a fiscal standpoint. I don't believe that is an appropriate use for our funds. I agree completely that it is a worthwhile cause, but we've got to be careful and stay within the appropriate guidelines for how we spend our money. And not besides that, we also have to consider the fact that this is a countywide program where our funds need to be spent in our service area.
Yeah.
And actually, if a child is born in, well, I think the way Erie County does it, hopefully if I don't make a mistake here, but I think it was Erie County. If the child is born at Firelands Regional Medical Center, the parents given the opportunity to sign up. That child doesn't have to live in Erie County.
I think they do. It
Do
goes
they?
by your zip code.
Okay. The way someone had told me from outside of the library system that they thought it was anybody, and it could be outside, not even just outside our service area, but outside of our county.
Yeah, I think when you go to try to sign up, if you don't have the program, it says contact somebody in your community to get one started, essentially.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why they don't approach Ottawa County Community Foundation directly and let them give the money.
Well, since this is going to be an ongoing thing where, the child from birth to 5, and then every year there's going to be more kids. So every year for the first 5 years, it's going to increase in money. And then it's going to stay, other than inflation, it's going to stay relatively steady after that because you're kind of at a full complement. But I think they need to create their own endowment through Ottawa County Community Foundation and be raising funds. That's my personal opinion.
Jan,
I just want to correct, I agree with Jim and I agree with Jan, but I do want to correct the record. Allison Falls does nothing sloppy. Ever since she retired and moved here, she has done tireless fundraising for all kinds of organizations, and she is a big success story.
Oh, okay.
She is the acting director for United Way. She's retired Wall Street vice president of a bank. So I just want to make that comment in case the public in case she's watching.
Okay. Well, I appreciate being corrected.
It wasn't you being corrected, it was your quote.
Yes. Well, I guess we can basically close down this conversation and leave it as is and wait for communication through that foundation and see what comes of it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, then there's no action required. Let's move on to the executive session. We need to go into executive